Well, hi there. It's Scott the Potter, and I thought I would talk a little bit about the pottery that I just got back from one of my classes. So, over the last 10 weeks, I've been taking a class with Michael Collins in Cambridge, Ontario. This is the second set of 10-week classes I've taken with him. Now, I used to throw pottery back in early 2000s in Syracuse, New York. I picked it back up again, and so now I'm doing classes, finishing a class with Michael. I've been doing some classes with Christy Grupp through the Brantford Potters Guild, doing that as well. But the way Michael runs his classes is he runs, you throw pottery for about 7 weeks, and then you finish it up and glaze it all over weeks 8 and 9, and then it gets fired, and then you show up and pick it all up. And that's the exciting day because that's where you get to see what survived and what didn't. I've been making a lot of progress, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I thought I would just do a little video, talk through the pots that I just got back, what I see about them, what I like, what I don't like, and just to share with you the joy of making some arts. So this time around, I've focused on larger forms. I've focused on making some vases of different shapes and sizes, playing a bit with glazes and things like that. So I guess I'll start with what I like the least and go from there. So I made a number of vases where I started with 1 or 2 pounds of clay just to see if I could get a form. So this vase, for example, I really like the shape of this. This is nice. I'm really happy with the lip that I made. I think what's happening with my pottery is I'm learning how to keep it from falling apart. Because like this vase, as I was throwing it, it started to struggle a little bit, and I was able to use a rib to help hold this pottery up as I was throwing it to keep things up. But yeah, very happy with the lip. Now, I tried to do a technique called chattering, which you'll see on a number of pieces, where you take a flexible metal tool, and once the clay is dried a bit, you spin the clay and you touch the tool against it, and the tool kind of bounces up and down on the surface and cuts in these little lines. Now, this one you can't see it on very well because the glaze that I used, this blue glaze, was relatively thick. There's a little bit of pattern that you're seeing from the chattering, but not much, because like this vase, for example, this smaller one, you can see the effects of the chattering much more. And so the chattering are these sort of random, that makes these random lines. I really like chattering. I'm going to work with it some more. The trick is then learning how to glaze it such that those lines show, because if the glaze goes on too thick, like what happened here, you just lose all of that chattering work that you did. But yeah, so 2 vases there. This is a smaller one that I also made that the chattering shows up nicely on. Again, a thinner coat of glaze. So I have different colors of glaze going on here, sort of a brown at the bottom and a green at the top. But again, trying to explore those lines, getting those chattering. So this could make a nice little vase, could make a nice little pencil holder, something like that. But I'm fairly happy with that little guy. I particularly like the way the color worked on this one. I tried to get it to run, and so you could see, and this one actually has chattering at the bottom as well, which you can see in the sunlight. The glaze didn't break, so breaking glaze means that the glaze changes color over different textures, and so the glaze didn't really break as much over the chattering as I'd hoped. It did okay, but I do like, I tried to use a white glaze on the top that I then actually put and dripped and encouraged it to run a little bit to get this look. So I'm quite happy with the way this piece ends up looking. I like the different colors. It's an interesting piece to look at. Probably one of my favorite vases or vases from this. I really like this form, the way this came out. I really like the way the glaze, so I used 2 colors on this. I've got a black and then a more greenish brown over the top. You can see it ran just a little bit and made interesting shapes to look at. I like the profile on this quite a lot. I like the shaping. I'm very happy with this. And you can kind of see how over the 10 weeks I improved. I really was focusing on improving my throwing. And I see that in mugs that I made. So this was a mug I made for a friend who likes wolves. So I made a wolf on there. But it's akin to the mugs I was making in my last class. Fairly chunky mug, you know, it's not that elegant, but it'll work. I do like the way the glaze kind of ran a little bit here. That was what I was going for, is 2 different colors of glaze, so a base, and then I dipped the top. But as compared to this one, which I made in my my Brantford class about 5 weeks after I made this one, but I was really working on trying to throw more of the clay from the bottom of the pot up to the top of the pot, trying to make it thinner And I achieved that with this. As you can just look at the thickness of the pot, this is much lighter, much more refined. So I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm heading with this amount of clay, being able to control it. I then started to play with some other forms and bigger forms. So one of the things that I did is I tried a two-piece throw. So now this is where I made two pieces. So I threw this bottom, I threw this top. I made them the same, and then I joined them and connected them, and that allowed me to make this bigger piece. Here's a picture of this after the glaze was on it, but before it was fired. So you can see how the colors change so dramatically in the firing process. You don't really know what you have when you've glazed it. So again, I tried the technique by running the white down. I really like the way that the rim got kind of speckled on that. And then you can see, I love that way that the blue fades into the red. I like this. So I'm very, very happy with this piece. This is where I'm going to be heading. Um, Now, I had a little bit of fun this time. So there are pots that you can make by taking clay, coiling it in spirals, and stacking the spirals on top. I'll put a picture of that here. So that was my concept, and I was looking online, and someone did something where they played with that idea, and I decided to have some fun with it. And I said, all right, well, let's start with the spiraling pot concept, but then let's make it into snakes. Blah! So this is not functional, but I think it's hilarious. I really like my spirally, snaky pot. Again, here's a picture of it after it had been glazed, so you couldn't really tell what was going on. And then here's how it came out. I'm very happy with this, and I just think it's my first sort of art piece for the sake of art. There's nothing functional about this, but I'm amused by how it takes this form of the spiral pot and plays with it like it's a bunch of snakes. I like that. I also took on a challenge this time, and that was to try to make some instruments. So there's a kind of drum, a Nigerian drum called an udu drum that I decided to try to make. Now, the first one I tried to make, I threw it in one piece, and so it ends up it's like a water jar shape. You do not glaze it because it makes for better sound if it's not glazed, and then you end up putting a hole in the side and then a hole in the top. And so this ends up being your drum. Now this is little, but this is, at the time that I threw it, this is about what I could control. You know, I like this. This could actually be a nice birdhouse. But I then used a different technique of coil building, where you start with a bowl, and then you add a few coils of clay and you shape them down and you let that dry, and add a few coils of clay and shape them down, kind of like the coils that you see here, but if you added those coils going around and then squished them into place and worked with it. So this took some time to make, but this is one of my udu drums. It's all fired, and so this one created through that coiling method. And then I said, you know what, I did two at once, so I had a second one, and this one kept going and going and going and going. Hello! So these are then drums that I can play. They each have a different tone. I'm gonna try to. I haven't practiced this at all. It'll be enough for you to hear the tone, but yeah, we'll do a concert someday. Today won't be that day. Well, hello. Welcome to the quick jump inside, because outside it started blowing really badly, and so you couldn't actually hear what was going on. So I've gone inside for the remainder of the video. I was just getting ready to play my drums a little bit for you. So again, two shapes. We've got this one, which is more consistent. This one, because of the chamber up top, the holes make different sounds. So now I just got these today, so I haven't learned to play them properly. They do make different sounds, though. In theory, you can play the side as well. My side's pretty thick. What I may do is sand down a couple areas to try and have a few striking areas where I can get a tone on the side, but the holes play fine. On there, so it's got a soft place to rest, because then you can have multiple that you play. So I get this one going. So this one's deeper. should be able to play this. I'll try to thin it down. This little one. I mean, if you put it with these, well, now it's just hitting the table, so that's no good. Can I balance it? Oh, this is a recipe for disaster, isn't it? So anyway, I could see having a set of these all around, different sizes, and play the tones. So that's the Udu drums, fun stuff. Now the final thing I'm going to show you here, Mom, if you are my mom, stop watching this video. There's one thing left that I'm going to show you. It's a present for my mom. So if your mom, turn it off. It's going to be a surprise. For everyone else, you can see what I made for her. So my mom likes hummingbirds, and she asked for a vase. So I did a hummingbird vase. So there we go. That's painted with an underglaze and then glaze with clear. I tried to make white around the outside to make it like sky and a little some clouds, but the white just kind of made but I'm happy with that. So there you go. There's my pottery. So this is everything that you saw here came from one 10-week class that I did with Michael Collins. You can find a link to his studio in the link below. And I intend to continue my potting adventures. I'm looking to join the Brentford Potters Guild, and we will see what happens next. So take care all, and enjoy potting. Play us out, Scott.